Hi, and welcome to a proposal to the European Commission on improving bottle deposit schemes in the EU. In a world increasingly concerned about environmental sustainability, we focus on the vital yet complex realm of cans and plastic bottles in terms of their recycling in the EU. Addressing the inefficiencies and disparities across member states' bottle deposit systems, our mission is to catalyse a significant change by advocating for a cohesive, EU-wide regulatory body we call the European Repository Recycling Scheme, also known as the ERRS. This video delves into the challenges of the current bottle deposit schemes, which suffer from a lack of standardization and compatibility, and the problem of damaged or missing labels. These challenges also manifest when individuals travel between countries where returning containers becomes a burden, resulting in higher instances of disposal rather than recycling. So, how do we introduce the European Repository Recycling Scheme? Well, with a primary audience of EU policymakers and stakeholders, our proposal aims to substantiate insightful factual evidence from various return schemes across the EU, statistics on recycling rates, studies analysing the impact of return levels, and EU institutions and agency websites. We aim to accentuate the urgency for systematic improvements, which fits the EU's quest for circularity by proposing a regulatory body. Join us as we unravel the complexities, address the limitations, and present a roadmap for a more unified and effective EU-wide repository recycling scheme. How do we do this? Well, here's a step-by-step guide. After identifying the need and scope, a legal basis will be established through the creation of new regulations specifically addressing bottle deposit and return schemes. Next, stakeholders will provide input regarding the design of the scheme and the deposit amount, refund mechanisms, and recycling targets. This will inform the legislative framework, including the responsibilities, powers, and functions of the regulatory body, the obligations of producers, distributors, and retailers. This draft legislation will be presented to relevant EU institutions, after whose approval a governance structure will be defined. This will include the appointment of a board or commission of representatives, as well as leadership in the form of a chairperson or president. Lastly, the ERRS will be provided with the necessary resources such as funding and administrative support. This will ensure swift implementation. So, how can we convince the European Commission? Well, many countries already have an established structure in place for the depository scheme. 90% of PET plastics were successfully recycled, according to the depository scheme, in countries such as Germany, Finland, and Denmark. Moreover, according to the UNESDA, countries without the depository scheme had a collection rate ranging from 22% to 73%. That shows you how successful it really is. Let's look at the Sensonio model, a step-by-step chain of supply in which disruption is minimal and positive results are maximised within the depository recycling scheme setup. In order to reform the bottle deposit system in the EU, a body has to be created at the EU level. For member states that do not have a scheme, they will be assisted by the EU. An example of this can be the LIFE project, which has been financed and designated by the Directorate General for Environment, has helped seek to protect nature, the environment, and promote circular economic practices. Existing bodies, such as the European Environmental Agency, operate at the EU level and require cooperation between member states. This shows that such a project is viable and can lead to beneficial results. Well, what are the benefits for member states? This varies. It creates the much-needed job creation in countries that do not already have a bottle repository scheme and helps a cleaner environment. It's true that there will be some loss of autonomy, but we judge that the benefits outweigh the cost, and that is necessary in order to streamline recycling processes. Aside from member states, there's also benefits for companies. By coordinating at the EU level, they will make use of economies of scales for bottle production, advertisement, policy, and other areas. The creation of raw material from recycled containers is also beneficial for national branches and allows them to maintain and increase profitability. Finally, by centralizing management, conflicts between member states are avoided and allow for coordinated development of further sustainability ventures. Recycling is a global challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. Therefore, we present these three crucial recommendations for the ERRS. Our first proposal is an EU regulation for a uniform deposit system in all member states. By standardizing practices, we aim to streamline implementation and promote cross-border cooperation. Doing so will allow consumers to return depositable bottles in any member state and will remove the current restrictions of only being able to return bottles in the country of purchase. Our second recommendation is to engrave durable return labels directly on bottles and cans. We have made a special logo for bottles in the repository recycling scheme. It also shows in which country the bottle was purchased. This method ensures tamper-proof identification and reduces the problem of people not returning items because the labels are damaged or lost. Lastly, we propose to change the deposit rates on bottles in accordance with fixed percentages. Bottles under 1 litre have a 15% deposit, and bottles over 1 litre have a 20% deposit. No matter where you return the item, you will always get the deposit you paid.